So the first thing we're going to do is cut along the top to take off what we call the silver skin. Then cut down to the bone on either side of the bone, which gives us a place to put in the herbs. Score the caps, which helps the natural fats to render. Paul is adding in thyme, but also recommends rosemary, or both, plus garlic, or whatever is your favorite seasoning. And then he tops it off with sea salt for additional flavoring. Next, the lamb goes into a frying pan of hot canola oil to get seared before going into the oven. While the lamb is cooking, Paul prepares a vegetable mixture of zucchini, pepper, eggplant, and garlic, which then get cooked in the same frying pan as the lamb in order to add flavor to the vegetables. The lamb comes out of the oven and goes over top of the vegetables. In this final step, Paul makes a sage butter by taking fresh strips of raw sage, putting them into a frying pan with butter, and heating them up on the stove until the butter browns and the sage turns crispy. He then pours the browned sage butter over top of the lamb. The result is oh so good. Some people like to cook the entire leg of lamb, but today Chef Lubsack shows us how to debone the lamb into small pieces, which speeds up the cooking and makes for a more tender piece of meat. You can make small pieces or large pieces, whichever is your preference. The shank, which is the front part, is put aside to get braised at a later time, and other leftover pieces are used for stew so that the entire leg is used. Alberta lamb has great flavor, so we only need a small amount of salt for seasoning. In the words of our chef, let the flavor of the lamb shine for itself. And now the pieces are ready to be dry cooked in the oven at 425 degrees. The goal is to have the lamb nice and brown on the outside when finished cooking. Next, our chef starts the plate with Alberta fingerlings potatoes, served cold because it lets the flavor of the lamb take over the dish. The potatoes are covered with mushroom remoulade, which is sautéed mushrooms with onion and aioli. Pickled ginger, also from Alberta, goes well with the sweetness characteristic of Alberta lamb. And finally, chef tops everything with fresh parsley. Letting the lamb cool for a couple of minutes allows the juices to be absorbed back into the meat. And as it gets sliced, you can see just how juicy and tender it is. That knife gets no resistance. Just looking at it makes my mouth water. Finally, some potato chips for a contrast in texture, followed by just a sprinkling of dried mushroom powder, and voila! A dish fit for a king or any Albertan. Chef McGuire starts this dish by making the minted almond pesto. He mixes lemon juice and garlic, toasted almonds, olive oil, fresh basil, fresh mint, and goat milk cheese, and he grinds them up briefly in a blender. Easy to make, and it adds great flavor to the dish. The Alberta lamb chops have been soaking overnight in a very easy to make brine solution, which adds a lot of moisture and flavor to the dish. Harissa is a wonderful North African spice mix of peppers, garlic, lemon juice, olive oil, and salt. Just a couple of spoons of harissa get added to the bowl with the chops. Next, a freshly chopped clove of garlic is added to help bring out the grill flavor. And finally, Chef McGuire mixes the lamb, garlic, and harissa sauce in the bowl by hand. The chops are now moved to the grill for a minute or two per side, and then they go into the oven for 6 to 8 minutes at 500 degrees to bring them to a very tender medium rare. Chef McGuire decorates the final plate with a red wine reduction sauce made from red wine and sugar. The lamb is neatly placed on top, followed, of course, by the minted pesto. It looks and tastes fabulous.
Alberta lamb, that is delicious.